Hello, and welcome back to my audio reality life of story. I would like to personally thank you for taking the time to hang out with us today. Whether you're commuting, hitting the gym, or just relaxing, we are so incredibly grateful you're here. In today's episode, the weight no one could see. Everyone praised success. Everyone admired confidence. Everyone celebrated winners. But very few people ever stopped to ask, "Are you okay?" They only noticed when someone failed. At 28 years old, Dane Harper looked like he had everything together. A steady office job, a neat apartment, a reliable car, a polite smile. To his co-workers, Dane was dependable. To his neighbors, he was friendly. To strangers, he was just another ordinary man living an ordinary life. But appearances are often the greatest disguises. Every morning, Dane woke before sunrise. Not because he wanted to, because anxiety wouldn't let him sleep. His alarm rang at 6:01. He had usually been awake since 4. He would stare at the ceiling while his mind replayed every regret, every unpaid bill, every promise he couldn't keep, every word people had said that still hurt years later. His mother had passed away 3 years earlier after a long battle with cancer. She had been his entire world. After losing her, silence became his closest companion. His father had disappeared when Dane was only 6. No phone calls, no birthdays, no explanation, just absence. Dane learned early that loneliness could exist even inside a crowded room. At work, no one knew. When they asked, "How are you?" he always smiled. "I'm good." It became automatic. Not because it was true, because nobody really wanted the real answer. One Monday morning, his coworker Lisa laughed as she carried a box of donuts. "Dane, you're always so quiet. Smile a little." He smiled. There. Everyone laughed. The conversation moved on. No one noticed the dark circles beneath his eyes. No one noticed he'd skipped lunch for 3 straight days to save money. No one noticed his hands trembling from stress. People often assume silence means peace. Sometimes, silence is survival. Every evening after work, Dane visited the small cemetery where his mother rested. He brought fresh flowers whenever he could afford them. Some weeks, wildflowers picked from empty fields had to do. He would sit beside the grave for nearly an hour. "I got through another day, Mom. I wish you were here. I don't know if I'm doing anything right." The wind was always his only reply. Yet somehow, talking to her made him feel less alone. One rainy Thursday, everything became even harder. Dane received a letter. Final notice. His rent had increased. His electricity bill was overdue. His savings account held less than $80. He folded the letter carefully. Not because he wasn't worried, because panic wouldn't change the numbers. That evening, he skipped dinner again. Water filled the emptiness better than food he couldn't afford. Weeks passed. Pressure kept building. Then came the mistake everyone would notice. Dane worked as an accounts assistant. His job required entering financial records carefully. Normally, he never made errors. Never. But exhaustion changes people. After another sleepless night, Dane accidentally entered one extra zero into a payment system. A payment of $8,500 became $85,000. The accounting department caught it within hours. No money was actually lost. The mistake was corrected immediately. But that didn't matter. His manager called everyone into the conference room. Holding the report high, he said loudly, "One careless mistake like this could have cost this company thousands." Everyone looked around. Then, their eyes landed on Dane. The manager continued, "This is unacceptable." Dane quietly apologized. "I'm sorry, it won't happen again." His manager shook his head. "Sorry doesn't fix incompetence." The room became painfully silent. Dane wished the floor would open beneath him. No one remembered the 3 years he'd worked overtime. No one remembered the weekends he'd sacrificed. No one remembered the countless times he'd fixed other people's errors without asking for credit. One mistake erased every good thing. By lunchtime, the whispers had already started. I heard Dane nearly lost the company a fortune. I always thought he looked distracted. I guess he isn't as reliable as we believed. Rumors spread faster than truth. No one asked why it happened. No one wondered if something deeper was wrong. People noticed mistakes. Pain remains invisible. That evening, Dane sat alone in his apartment. His phone remained silent. No messages. No friends checking on him. Only unpaid bills scattered across the kitchen table. For the first time in years, he cried. Not because of the mistake, but because it confirmed what he had quietly believed all along. People only saw him when something went wrong. The following morning, he almost didn't go to work. He stood at his apartment door for nearly 10 minutes. One hand rested on the doorknob. His mind whispered, "What's the point?" Then he remembered something his mother once told him. Your hardest days reveal your strongest heart. He wiped away his tears, straightened his shirt, and walked out. He didn't know it yet, but someone had quietly been watching him. Not his mistakes, his suffering. Someone who understood exactly what hidden pain looked like. And that person was about to change Dane's life forever. The man everyone ignore. The next morning, Dane arrived at the office earlier than usual. He hoped that if he got there before everyone else, he could avoid the whispers. The elevator doors opened onto the quiet office floor. For the first time in days, there was silence. No judgment, no laughter, just the soft hum of fluorescent lights. Dane sat at his desk and stared blankly at his computer screen. The cursor blinked as if waiting for him to make another mistake. His hands hovered over the keyboard, but they wouldn't move. The memory of his manager's harsh words echoed in his mind. Sorry doesn't fix incompetence. He swallowed hard and forced himself to begin working. As the office slowly filled with employees, the atmosphere changed. Conversations stopped when Dane walked past. Some people looked away. Others whispered just loudly enough for him to hear. That's the guy who messed up the payment. I'd double-check anything he touches. Management won't keep him much longer. Dane pretended not to hear. Sometimes pretending hurt less than reacting. Near lunchtime, he escaped to the rooftop for a few minutes of fresh air. Clouds drifted across the sky. The city buzzed below, indifferent to his pain. As he leaned against the railing, he heard a calm voice behind him. Beautiful view, isn't it? Dane turned. It was the building's elderly janitor. Most people barely noticed him. His gray uniform was faded, and his shoes had clearly seen better days. His name tag read, Mr. Samuel Brown. Dane managed a weak smile. It is. Samuel stood beside him without saying another word. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. Oddly, the silence felt comforting. Finally, Samuel asked, "Tough week?" Dane laughed softly. Is it that obvious? Samuel smiled, only to someone who's worn the same expression. That simple sentence caught Dane's attention. What do you mean? Samuel looked toward the horizon. When people are hurting, they stop looking at the world. They only look down. Dane slowly lowered his eyes. Samuel was right. I saw what happened in the meeting, Samuel continued. Dane sighed. So did everyone. Yes, Samuel nodded. But I also saw something no one else noticed. Dane frowned. What was that? You apologized before anyone even asked you to. You didn't blame anyone. You didn't make excuses. You simply accepted responsibility. Dane shrugged. It didn't matter. Samuel smiled gently. It matters more than you think. Over the following weeks, Dane found himself eating lunch with Samuel almost every day. The old janitor had a quiet wisdom that couldn't be learned from books. One afternoon, Samuel asked, "Do you know why I became a janitor?" Dane assumed it had always been his profession. I never thought about it. Samuel chuckled. Most people don't. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a faded photograph. It showed a much younger Samuel wearing an expensive suit while standing beside a beautiful office building. That was my company. Dane blinked. Your company? Samuel nodded. I used to own one of the largest construction firms in the city. Dane stared in disbelief. What happened? Samuel looked at the photograph for a long moment before answering. I made one terrible decision. 20 years earlier, Samuel had trusted the wrong business partner. The man stole millions from the company. By the time Samuel discovered the truth, it was too late. The business collapsed. Hundreds of employees lost their jobs. Banks took everything. His house, his cars, his savings, even his reputation. Newspapers didn't print the truth. They simply called him a failed businessman. No one cared that I'd been betrayed, Samuel said quietly. They only cared that I had failed. Dane listened in silence. I spent years angry, Samuel admitted. I hated everyone. I blamed life. I blamed God. I blamed myself. What changed? Dane asked. Samuel smiled. A little girl. Dane looked confused. My granddaughter, Samuel explained. One day she asked me why I never smiled anymore. I told her life wasn't fair. Samuel laughed softly. She looked at me and said something I'll never forget. Grandpa, just because life hurts you doesn't mean you have to hurt life back. Dane felt goosebumps. Samuel folded the photograph carefully. Children often understand what adults forget. The following Friday, another problem shook the office. The finance department discovered several missing files. Important financial records had disappeared from the company server. Management panicked. An emergency meeting was called. Everyone was questioned. Dane's heart raced. He knew how quickly blame spread. This time, however, he remained calm. He had learned something from Samuel. When questioned, he answered honestly. He had nothing to hide. Yet whispers started once again. It has to be Dane. First, the payment error. Now, missing files? He can't be trusted. Dane lowered his head. The accusations felt familiar, painfully familiar. Late that evening, long after everyone had gone home, Dane stayed behind to finish organizing paperwork. As he walked toward the exit, he noticed a light glowing inside the manager's office. The door wasn't completely closed. Voices drifted into the hallway. Dane stopped. Inside, his manager was speaking with another senior employee. I don't care who takes the blame, the manager whispered. We cannot let corporate discover we've been hiding accounting discrepancies for months. Dane froze. Accounting discrepancies? His heart pounded. The second man sounded nervous. What if someone checks the audit logs? The manager replied coldly. They won't. And if they do? He paused. Dane already has a damaged reputation. He'll be the perfect scapegoat. Dane felt the blood drain from his face. His mistake, the public humiliation, the whispers, had all made him the easiest person to blame. He quietly stepped away before anyone saw him. Outside, rain poured from the dark sky. Dane stood motionless on the sidewalk. For the first time, he realized his greatest battle wasn't against failure. It was against deception. Someone powerful was preparing to sacrifice an innocent man to protect their own career. Across the street, Samuel watched from beneath a small umbrella. He had seen the look on Dane's face before. It was the expression of someone standing at a crossroads. One path led to revenge. The other led to character. Samuel knew that the choice Dane made next would define not only his future, but the future of everyone in that office. Character is revealed in the dark. Rain fell heavily as Dane stood outside the office building. The conversation he had overheard echoed in his mind. Dane already has a damaged reputation. He'll be the perfect scapegoat. His fists tightened.
For a brief moment, anger consumed him. He imagined storming back into the office, confronting his manager, and exposing everything. But then, Samuel's words returned to him. Just because life hurts you doesn't mean you have to hurt life back. Dane took a deep breath. He knew one thing. If he acted out of anger, no one would believe him. He needed the truth, not revenge. The next morning, Dane arrived at work as if nothing had happened. He greeted everyone politely. Most ignored him. Some gave him suspicious looks. His manager, Richie Collins, smiled in an unusually friendly way. "Morning, Dane." Dane forced a smile. "Morning." It was the first kind word Richie had spoken to him in weeks. That alone made Dane uneasy. Later that day, the company's headquarters announced that an independent audit team would arrive within 2 weeks. The news spread quickly. Employees whispered nervously. Richie tried to appear calm. Inside, panic was beginning to grow. Dane noticed small things others didn't. Richie stayed late every evening. Files disappeared from cabinets. Old documents were shredded. Certain emails were mysteriously deleted. Dane said nothing. Instead, he quietly began keeping notes. Dates, times, conversations. He wasn't trying to trap anyone. He simply wanted the truth to survive. One evening, Samuel found Dane sitting alone in the cafeteria. "You've been carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders again," the old man said. Dane sighed. "What if doing the right thing costs me everything?" Samuel smiled gently. "It already has." Dane looked confused. Samuel continued. "You've already lost your reputation. You've already lost people's trust. So ask yourself one question. If you lose your character too, what will you have left?" Those words settled deep inside Dane's heart. Days passed. The office became more tense. Everyone feared the coming audit. One afternoon, something unexpected happened. A young intern named Emmy approached Dane. She looked nervous. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." She glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "I don't think you're the person everyone says you are." Dane smiled sadly. "Why?" Emmy hesitated. "Because every time I made mistakes during training, you were the only one who helped me. You never embarrassed me. You never made me feel stupid." Tears nearly filled Dane's eyes. For weeks, he had believed no one saw the good he tried to do. Yet someone had. The following Monday, the auditors arrived. The entire office felt unusually quiet. Computers were examined, financial records were reviewed, security logs were requested. Richie tried to remain confident, but sweat formed on his forehead. Dane simply answered every question honestly. He had nothing to hide. 3 days into the audit, the lead auditor requested a meeting with senior management. Employees waited anxiously outside. Hours passed. No one knew what was happening. Finally, the conference room door opened. The auditors walked out with serious expressions. Behind them came Richie. His face was pale. 2 corporate investigators followed close behind. The room fell silent. The lead investigator spoke clearly. "Our investigation has uncovered evidence that financial records were intentionally altered over several months." Gasps echoed through the office. He continued. "The accounting error involving Mr. Dane Harper was unrelated to these activities." Every eye turned toward Dane. The investigator looked directly at him. "Mr. Harper, we have also discovered that someone attempted to manipulate evidence in a way that would have made you appear responsible." The room became completely silent. Richie lowered his head. For the first time, no excuses came, no speeches, no authority, only shame. Corporate security escorted Richie from the building. No one said a word. The same people who had whispered about Dane now avoided looking him in the eye. The silence felt different. It wasn't judgment anymore. It was guilt. Later that afternoon, the CEO visited the office personally. He asked Dane to meet privately. Inside the office, the CEO spoke first. "I owe you an apology." Dane remained quiet. "We failed you. We judged one mistake while ignoring years of honesty."
He slid a folder across the desk. Inside was an offer, a promotion, a substantial salary increase, and a leadership position in the finance department. "You've earned our trust." Dane looked at the papers for several moments. Then he quietly closed the folder. The CEO seemed surprised. "You don't want the promotion?" Dane smiled. "I appreciate it. But before I answer, may I ask you something?" "Of course." "When I made one mistake, how many people defended me?" The CEO couldn't answer. Dane continued. "When the truth came out, everyone apologized. But where were those voices when I needed them?" The CEO lowered his eyes. Dane stood. "I forgive everyone. But forgiveness doesn't erase what happened." He politely declined the promotion. Not out of pride, not out of anger, because he had finally realized something. Peace was worth more than position. Respect was worth more than salary. Character was worth more than reputation. That evening, Dane met Samuel on the rooftop one last time. He told him everything. Samuel smiled warmly. "I knew you'd choose the harder road." Dane laughed. "How?" Samuel looked toward the sunset. "Because pain can make a person bitter or better. You chose better." As the sun disappeared beyond the skyline, Samuel reached into his coat pocket and handed Dane a small envelope. "I've been waiting for the right day to give you this." Dane opened it. Inside was an old brass key and a handwritten note that would reveal a secret Samuel had kept hidden for over 20 years. It would change Dane's life forever. The pain that became a purpose. Dane stared at the old brass key resting in his palm. It was worn smooth by time. Attached to it was a small handwritten note. "Some doors only open when your heart is ready." He looked up at Samuel. "What does this unlock?" Samuel smiled. "My past, and perhaps your future." The next Saturday morning, Samuel invited Dane to meet him on the outskirts of the city. They stopped in front of an old brick building that looked abandoned. The windows were dusty and ivy climbed the faded walls. Dane looked at the brass key. "It can't be..." Samuel nodded. "Go ahead." Dane inserted the key into the heavy wooden door. It clicked. As the door slowly opened, sunlight poured into a large, empty workshop. The room was clean despite its age. Old drafting tables, shelves of books, blueprints, and framed photographs lined the walls. One photograph showed Samuel standing proudly with dozens of employees decades earlier. "This was my company," Samuel said softly. "I never sold this building. I couldn't bear to." Dane walked slowly through the workshop. Everything seemed frozen in time. On one wall hung a plaque engraved with a simple sentence: "A business should never measure success only by profit, but by the lives it improves." Dane read it twice. "It still means everything to you, doesn't it?" Samuel smiled. "It means even more now." They sat together in silence until Samuel finally spoke. "You know why I watched you?" Dane shook his head. "Because 20 years ago, I was you. I worked day and night. I tried to help everyone. I believed that if I worked hard enough, people would see my heart." He looked down. "I was wrong. They only noticed me after I failed." Dane nodded slowly. "I know that feeling." Samuel smiled gently. "Yes. But there was one difference. I let my pain make me bitter. You didn't." Samuel opened an old filing cabinet and removed a thick folder. Inside were property deeds, financial documents, and legal papers. He placed them on the table. "I have no children who wish to continue my work. My granddaughter followed her own dreams, and that's perfectly fine." He looked directly at Dane.
I've spent years searching for someone with integrity. Not someone brilliant. Not someone wealthy. Someone whose character remained intact after suffering. Dane looked stunned. What are you saying? Samuel pushed the folder toward him. I'm giving you this building. Dane's eyes widened. What? It's paid for. No debts. No loans. I want you to build something that helps people. Maybe a business. Maybe a training center. Maybe a place where people who have been forgotten can begin again. Dane's voice trembled. But why me? Samuel smiled. Because when everyone noticed your mistake, I noticed your heart. Tears filled Dane's eyes. For years he had believed no one truly saw him. Yet all along, one quiet man had been watching, not to judge him, but to understand him. Months passed. Dane resigned from the accounting firm. Before leaving, many co-workers apologized sincerely. Lisa approached him with tears in her eyes. I laughed when everyone else did. I'm sorry. Dane smiled. I forgive you. Emmy hugged him. You taught me that kindness matters. Dane replied, No. You reminded me why it matters. Even the CEO shook his hand. I hope someday you'll give us another chance. Dane simply smiled. Maybe. There was no bitterness in his voice, only peace. With Samuel's guidance, Dane transformed the old building. Fresh paint covered the cracked walls. New furniture replaced broken desks. The workshop became something entirely new. Above the entrance, a wooden sign was installed. Second Chance Foundation. Its mission was simple: to help people who had lost jobs, made mistakes, struggled with grief, or simply needed someone to believe in them again. Free career training, financial counseling, mental health support, job placement assistance, a warm meal, and, perhaps most importantly, a listening ear. Dane made one rule for every volunteer. Before you judge someone's mistake, ask if they've been carrying a pain you cannot see. The foundation grew quickly. People from every walk of life came through its doors. A single mother who had lost everything after a divorce, a veteran struggling to find work, a teenager rejected after one foolish decision, an elderly man who had been forgotten by his own family. Dane never asked, "What did you do?" Instead, he asked, "What happened to you?" That one question changed countless lives. One winter afternoon, a young man entered the foundation. His clothes were wrinkled. His eyes were red from crying. He held a letter in trembling hands. "I was fired today. No one believes me. I made one mistake." Dane recognized the look immediately. It was the same look he had once seen in his own reflection. He invited the young man to sit down. He listened. He didn't interrupt. When the young man finished, Dane smiled kindly. "You know, there was a time when everyone noticed my mistake too." The young man looked up. "What happened?" Dane glanced toward the wall. There hung two framed photographs. One showed Dane and his late mother. The other showed Dane standing beside Samuel on the day the foundation opened. He smiled. "My mistake wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning." A year later, the foundation celebrated helping its 1,000th person find employment. The local newspaper wanted to honor Dane with a feature article. The reporter asked, "To what do you owe your success?" Dane smiled and pointed toward a simple wooden bench in the garden. Samuel often sat there, quietly greeting visitors. But today, the bench was empty. A small bouquet of white lilies rested on it. Samuel had passed away peacefully a few weeks earlier in his sleep, at the age of 83. The entire city attended his funeral, not because he had once been a wealthy businessman, but because of the countless lives he had quietly changed. Dane looked at the reporter and said, "I learned everything important from a man most people never noticed." That evening, after everyone had gone home, Dane sat alone on Samuel's favorite bench. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. He unfolded the note Samuel had given him with the brass key. On the back was one final message that Daniel had never noticed before. People will forget your achievements. They will forget your failures, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Dane smiled through tears. He looked toward the busy street where strangers hurried past one another, each carrying invisible burdens. He whispered, "Thank you for seeing me." A gentle breeze rustled the trees, and for a moment it felt as though Samuel was smiling beside him. Dane stood, straightened his shoulders, and walked back into the foundation. There were more people waiting, more stories to hear, more lives to rebuild, because he now understood a truth that had taken years of pain to learn. The world may notice your mistakes before it notices your pain, but the people who truly matter will look beyond both and see your heart. Moral of this story: everyone is fighting a battle that others cannot see. A single mistake should never define a person's worth, because behind every failure may be years of silent courage, sacrifice, and unseen pain. Before judging someone, choose compassion. Before criticizing, choose understanding. And remember, true character is revealed not by never falling, but by rising with kindness after life has knocked you down. Thanks for tuning in. Before we go, a quick thank you to all of our loyal subscribers. Your feedback and engagement keep us going. We appreciate every single one of you. Keep being awesome, and we'll see you in the next one.